Welcome to Some Fun and Fundraising, everybody. The podcast where we talk with people behind top nonprofit galas and signature fundraising events to showcase how they positively transform their communities. I'm your host, Rob Giardinelli, and today I'm thrilled to have two really special guests on. So we have Heidi Marquez Smith, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Texas Cultural Trust, as well as Tania Schwartz, who is the co-chair for the organization's signature fundraising event that's held once every other year. And it's the Texas Medal of Arts Awards that will be held in February. And it's really this wonderful celebration of the arts in the state of Texas. This year, they're going to be honoring 10 Texans who have contributed not just in Texas, but well beyond the borders of Texas to the arts to make a positive impact within Texas and around the world. So with that, Heidi, Tania, welcome. And I'm so excited to have you both on as guests today.
Thank you so much for having us. We're thrilled to be a part of your podcast. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, I'm thrilled to have you both. So, Heidi, I'd like to address the first question to you. Can you share a little bit about what the mission of the Texas Cultural Trust is?
I would be happy to. So, as you know, the Texas Cultural Trust is a nonprofit, and we're the leading voice for the arts in Texas as far as it goes with education, advocacy, and economic impact in Texas, while also spotlighting the artistic excellence that has been cultivated in our state. And we do this through 6 programs, one of which is the Texas Medal of Arts Awards.
And it's a super, I mean, it is a super, super fun. It's probably one of Texas's most star-studded and glamorous nights, and I cannot wait to dive in a little bit more with that. I'd love for you, though, to share maybe some of the other, some of the other programs in addition to the TMAAs, because I know, like, I love parts of the organization, like the Young Masters. So feel free to elaborate on any of the other things that you branch out into within the arts in Texas.
Absolutely. And thank you for the opportunity to do so. So as you mentioned, Texas Young Masters, which is one of our programs that provides grant scholarships to students in 8th through 11th grade to enhance their artistic education. So for many of these incredibly talented students, their education can be limited by resources. And we provide grants in the amount of $10,000 over 2 years to increase their education. And these students take their craft very seriously and do pretty incredible things with those funds to enhance their artistic education. Have gone on to Broadway and to become professional artists. It's really beautiful to see how they utilize these resources. And we do this event every other year, and it falls in even years, and the Texas Medal falls in odd years. And we have a mini kind of Texas Medal of the Arts for these young students to celebrate them and their families, because it is a dedication to support these children and take them to their lessons and so on and so forth. But it is a beautiful thing to remind Texans that we have so much creativity here in our state at all ages, and we should highlight that, but also invest in that and make sure that children have access to arts opportunities and education opportunities.
And I love that. And I love that you've mentioned, how, some of the Young Masters alum have, gone to Broadway and gone and contributed well outside of the state of Texas. And that's the beauty of the arts is you can contribute at home and you can contribute well beyond your own community. And I think that's amazing.
It's wonderful. And in addition to that, I would say, well, I want to also go back to our umbrella program, which is called Art Can. And that is what quantifies the impact that the arts have on our state. And that is the impact that the arts have on our education, on our health and well-being, on our economy, and our way of life. One of our chairs and board members yesterday talked about how, can you imagine life without the arts? As you walk in, step into your car, you're listening to music. The clothes you put on were designed by a creative individual. Every aspect of our lives involves the arts daily. You walk into a restaurant or a business, there's art on the walls. There's a creative that touches pretty much everything that we experience daily. And it's something that we should acknowledge, and really understand, who puts those things together. I think it's really important. And so through ArtCan, we publish the State of the Arts Report, and that puts numbers to that impact. So we know that students that have more access to the arts perform better. They have better social emotional learning skills. They can contribute to the communities a little bit more, are more civically minded, and also have a higher degree of confidence. So those are things we all want to instill in our youth And we're proud that we can share that with the state. And that State of the Arts report is something that we hope that all nonprofits, creative and not, can use to raise funds for the work that they do. Because we're talking not only about, let's say, Zach Theater here in Austin, but also artists themselves and individuals who want to garner support for the projects they have. They are part of that creative economy. So
Abs
we can do that.
Absolutely. And I'm really glad that you provided that detail and that how, what you all do and how art is really an important part of everybody's life. And, like you even said, things about when you walk into a beautiful building, that's designed by an architect. I know that along the way that there are people that have, designed buildings, and architects have received Medal of Arts awards. So I love the the recognition that your organization has in realizing how expansive the arts are. And it's so much more than paintings are amazing and paintings on a wall are amazing, but there are so many other mediums to enjoy from an artistic perspective.
We also know that accessing one cultural event a month can decrease the onset of depression by 48%. So
Wow.
it's pretty impressive how the arts can impact all facets of our life.
It absolutely can. And it's a great organization. And I want to, I always like asking this of guests. And with this question, I'm going to start with Tanya. I want to hear a little bit about how you initially got involved with this organization.
Well, back in 2007, I was called by a former member that was going off of the board, and he asked me if I'd be interested. And my background is in arts education, so I was a former secondary education teacher. I did English, and I was the director of our gifted and talented programming and academic decathlon. And so my whole background has been promoting arts education. I did probably 15 years with the Junior League, and all of my projects with the Junior League were always about arts education and arts advocacy. And I was so excited to move into an organization that wanted to hear my passion. Because the Junior League was like, oh, you know what she's going to come up with. It's going to be another arts program. So I was so thrilled to be with an organization where we all had the same vision for the state in promoting health and wellness and greatness through the arts. And I think that that's what's so great about the Texas Medal of Arts Awards, is that we see these luminaries that have achieved that greatness. And somewhere along the way, they had a teacher, they had a parent that identified their genius, their intelligence. I mean, I really love Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences and how we need to identify these things in children. And if a teacher or a parent doesn't identify it, it can be overlooked. And just, we have to capture the opportunity. And I'm so excited about all the different programs that we have through the trust to help those children, and especially through Texas Women for the Arts. So Texas Women for the Arts, I was, very fortunate to chair that. But it was, again, it fits so much into my mission in my life, is to help all the programming that we give grants to. So we have given grants since 2001?
Correct.
2001, I think. What's our total now?
So annually, we almost give upwards of $300,000 a year.
Wow.
So cumulatively, I don't have those numbers in front of me, but it's pretty impressive. I'll tell one story, and I'll let Tanya tell you a little bit more about the incredible women that are part of this group. But during the COVID, I was really proud of our membership, because we were able to sustain hundreds of nonprofit organizations who would not have thrived during that time. The arts were the first to close their doors. And they became really innovative, as they should, as creatives, and went online and started to do things. And we were one of the only organizations that would fund operations. And also, I am proud to say that we gave more money to arts education organizations than the state of Texas did. And so we're really proud that that we're able to support those organizations during a really difficult time for everybody.
Absolutely. And, Heidi, you've had such a long-standing passion for the arts and really anything creative over the years. So I'd love for you to share with our audience your path to getting to the Texas Cultural Trust, because you've done a lot of advocacy for a lot of various creative endeavors over the years.
I have, and it's so funny because I forget that I have, and then I stop to reflect what most of my career has been. Coming back to Texas, I went straight into nonprofit work and ran the Texas Book Festival, which is the literary arts. And as I dove more into the role and what the importance and the mission was, I found that many people did not enjoy literature as much as I did. And I thought, it's so unfortunate, and I think it starts at a young age, whether you have access to literature or whether you think reading is just about learning, have to learn something, when really and truly it's an opportunity to escape your world and dream bigger and give you opportunities to be creative. And I guess my mission when I went to the book festival was to break down that barrier for young readers in particular, and also readers at different ages, to really enjoy reading and recognize that it's not, yes, you do learn through anything you read, but I think that's not the point of doing it. I remember we had a program called Reading Rockstars, and there was this young student who said, she's like, I love reading because it's like TV but in my head. And I thought that was the best quote ever, because she truly was able to read something and imagine it live, right? Where I think today, as you look at technology, and we could have a totally different podcast on this, and I know really well versed in this, but when we were getting into the digital reading, especially for books for young children, that are picture books and so on, they wanted to take them digital and make them animated. That's a cartoon. And so I really, voiced my disagreement with that, because kids still need to imagine what a beautiful butterfly in red and green soaring through the sky is without being told, right? It's someone's interpretation. So I think there's something super powerful in language and words. And that segues back into the trust and the power of the arts, because so many times when our words fail us, we have art, we have drawing and painting, we have the visual arts, we have music. And we touched on that last night when we announced the honorees, that there's something so moving and so impactful about music in particular, because we're at Arlen Studios, that many artists sing about, and you listen to lyrics, and it's just moving. And that's how people have coped with a lot that have happened in happy or sad times. And I think growing up, for me, talking about my trajectory, I grew up in a very humble family in El Paso, Texas, but we always have music. We had mariachis. My grandfather played the violin. My grandmother was a pianist. We always had music at every celebration.
And so we share that in common, because I grew up in El Paso, my early years in Kansas City, but we always had access to the arts. I mean, we always went to the Chamizal to listen to the symphony. My parents were very, very good at promoting that. My sister became a professional ballet dancer. She danced with Ballet Austin and with the Louisville Ballet. And my brother is now a PhD, and but he's always kept his music. He's a jazz musician. And my parents always, even though we grew up in a humble environment, and I read so much I would get in trouble for reading. That's my biggest escape.
Wait a minute, who gets in trouble for reading?
Oh, well, because I needed to be doing my chores.
Okay, now I understand. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah. But it's so true. And I think there's a lot of culture behind it, right? And that's how I think the arts bring people together. There could be a piece of music in a different language, but you can all come together to appreciate the sound, and the emotion that evokes. But Tanya is right. In El Paso in particular, there is a lot of access, but not for all families, especially throughout Texas. The access isn't inequitable. And that's one of the missions of the trust, to make sure everyone has access to arts education. And so I think also there's an intimidation factor. I remember talking to I'm the oldest of six, my brother, and I was saying, did you go to the exhibit, at the Blanton recently? He's like, Heidi, I didn't do that. I'm not a fine arts major. So there's this thought that I have to be educated in the subject to go and enjoy it. And actually it's quite the opposite, right? I think you go in there with a very open mind if you don't maybe have that background. But I think we have so much of an opportunity here at the Trust to make the arts tangible for everybody and ensure that everyone has access, regardless of their backgrounds and their age, because it is so impactful. There's so much power in it. So if I'm answering your question in a very circular way, Yes, I was exposed to the arts very young. I did tap, I did ballet. I was very fortunate to have that. And I do think that it instilled grit and confidence in me, and a form of community, and being together and working together and just really appreciating the effort that went into creating something beautiful, but that anybody can create.
And I think that that's, what our job is in our roles as leaders and arts advocacy,
Mhm.
for our teachers, and just our message to get out there that we can create something beautiful out of nothing. And, just
Mhm.
through teaching how to be resourceful, teaching children how to be resourceful, how to use their
Mhm.
critical thinking skills in order to um, make something out of what they have. And I love that. I love seeing that happen. We did an event called the Borderline Project at the Chamizal, and we had children from both sides of the border gather, honestly, trash and discarded items on both sides of the river.
Mhm.
And then we came back to the Chamizal and created the most beautiful mural that was a binational project at the Chamizal National Park, which is right there, that has such a great story. And we did that with two Smithsonian artists, Lonnie Holly and Charlie Lucas. And it was such a great opportunity for the children to see how you can take something and make it into something beautiful. And so many different projects that I worked on that I'm
incredible.
so fortunate to have had those experiences, but it's transformational.
And impactful. For sure. And going to back one other program, I'm just going to slide it in as we talk about this in particular, is Arts Access. We had the opportunity, we also have art boxes that we provide to students in second grade in Title I schools, because the art supplies they have could be Sharpies and paper, where other public school districts may have chalk and watercolors and different kinds of paints and a dedicated arts teacher. Other districts may not have that. So we created these art boxes that have incredible art tools and crayons and chalk and different things like that. And when we've gone to these districts, they're so welcoming, but they also want to ensure that kids in other grades have that access. So it just opened our eyes to the needs that we need. So we have this program called Arts Access to see where else, what other areas do people need to access the arts, that is very, I think common for us, or we assume that everybody has those resources and they don't. And along those lines, we also donated art boxes to the community of Uvalde. Everyone who was in Robb Elementary, the administrators and the students. And I will tell you that we were informed after the fact that some of the children that we had provided art boxes for, we hand delivered them, were nonverbal. And their parents reached out to the district and said, through these boxes that you gave us, they started to communicate their feelings just by drawing and sketching and doing different things. And they were bringing in some arts therapists after that fact. So it just shows you that something so small and things that we may take for granted could be really important to someone's health and well-being, or, to be able to communicate what they're feeling. So we're really pleased with that project. And we also have them online for retail. And if you purchase one of those, a portion of those proceeds go to give one to a child in a Title I school, an art box.
Wow, that Uvalde story was really impactful. That really showcases how art can really help people heal. It can
Mhm.
help people inspire. There's so many different things that art can do. And that's what I love about the Texas Medal of Arts Awards. And it kind of goes back to what, we had said earlier. There are so many different mediums and modes of art, that the organization has. Talk a little bit about this year's crop of honorees, because it's really quite impressive, who you have, because you've got 10 really dynamic individuals and organizations that have very different artistic backgrounds, but bringing them all together really is just amazing.
Um, well, first, I want to tell you that this is not an easy decision. It's very challenging to select these individuals, but Texas has so much to be proud of. And I think we are very proud that we can recognize those household names and those who may be more obscure, but have done incredible things around the world. As you mentioned, from architecture to dance to theater to film, to acting, to song. It's quite impressive, the breadth of talent that we have cultivated here in our state. So we open up the nominations almost 2 years before, right after this Texas Medal of Arts. We'll open up the nominations and we'll invite people to nominate someone who they believe is deserving. And we have an honoree selection committee of experts, previous honorees, and board members that gather and convene and really go through this over several hours, and see who's not on the list, who should be on the list. And then we begin to invite these incredible honorees to receive the highest honor, to recognize creativity within our state. Think of it as the Kennedy Center of Honors, very akin to that. So we are thrilled. Do you want to just name them, Tanya?
Well, we have Terry Allen, who's receiving an award from Multimedia. Terry Allen's from Lubbock. We have Mercedes Bass, and being recognized as our arts patron, and she's from Fort Worth. Gary Clark Jr., for music songwriter from Austin. Elizabeth Crook, literary arts from Austin. Sandy Duncan, a musical theater from New London. Richard Linklater, film from Houston. Donald Moffett for visual arts from San Antonio. The Moody Foundation as arts patron foundation from Galveston, and the Texas Music Educators Association for arts education, and Dennis Quaid, our film actor from Houston.
That is a range of, and that's exactly what, we've been talking about, just the range of stuff from multimedia to visual to performing to, institutions to education. All of it gets, basically at the TMAAs, everything goes under this one roof, and it really creates this wonderfully inspiring creative night, for people. And, Heidi, I want to, because I know that it takes you every second of those 2 years to put this, to put this together. But it starts with, selecting event chairs. And what I have always found so amazing about the Texas Cultural Trust and TMAAs is that you have the great honor and opportunity, yet it is also a great challenge of selecting chairs from different markets every single year. So talk about how you all as a statewide organization go about the process of selecting chairs for a signature fundraising event and the TMAAs.
Sure. I think for any organization, it is something that you think about carefully and thoughtfully, ensure that the individuals really are passionate about the mission and care about what we're doing, because it's noticeable if you have a conversation with a chair and they may not be familiar with the organization or its mission, or lack some degree of passion for what we do. And I think that is probably the most important for us. And I think that reflects why many of our honorees have been board members, because I will say, I've said this before, I ran another statewide nonprofit, which had incredible board members. But we had a concentration of the board was local. This is truly a statewide board, a collaboration of individuals who are extremely influential within their communities and across the state and beyond. But even more beautiful than that is they come together, and they're from all different kinds of backgrounds, socioeconomic and political and so on, and professional, but they come together because they believe in the power of the arts. They believe that the arts can and will make a difference in people's lives. And hearing their stories, and it actually makes me think that I should get everyone to write something down, an anecdote of why, because I've heard them all separately, and I use those as I talk to people about the arts. And I think selecting and having the honor that both Tania Schwartz from El Paso and Mickey Klein of Austin, for them to say yes was a tremendous win for our organization, because they are very respected within the creative community and have done so much at every level to increase arts access and exposure for so many people. And it's beautiful, and it kind of makes me a little emotional because they did say yes and because they're so passionate. And so a lot of thought does go into that. And I think for us too, because many of our attendees come from all over the state, I think it's an opportunity to introduce them to our magnificent, our chairs who might be from another area. So carefully considering that, we want to also make sure that they complement each other. Some people will be more comfortable making introductions for fundraising, and others would be very comfortable making the ask themselves. So I think looking at that is extremely important. And also, what is their comfort level with being in front of a camera, being able to speak and talk about the arts? And last night, I will say, so many people heard what Tania and Mickey had to say, and it resonated with them. And I think they can hear me talk about it all the time, but I'm supposed to talk about it. But hearing Mickey and Tania, who are volunteers with our organization and have accepted this important role, talk about why the arts are important, really makes a difference with our audience and with people who are learning about the trust in our work. And that's also taken into consideration. And because they are board members, we're very familiar with them and what they've done, not only for the trust, but for the community as a whole. So I would say that, yes, it does take some time to decide this, and maybe some convincing on some parts or others, just because it is a time of dedication. And I got to tell you, it is so fun to have Tania visit and travel from El Paso all the time. And also, you want to think about who really loves to do these details. I will say that Mickey will say, I'm fine with hamburgers and French fries. That sounds great. Where Tania does care about the menu and every detail. And I'm so grateful. There's nothing wrong with hamburgers and French fries. But that's how they complement one another, and I think it's a lot of fun, and you should be able to have fun doing this. And you have fun when you believe in the mission.
Absolutely. And, Heidi had brought, up the fact, Tanya, that you said yes. And I think what's particularly fascinating about you saying yes is you're chairing an event in one city, you live in another city, or you're from another city.
Exactly.
What made you say, yes, I want to devote time for this? Because, even if you live 5 minutes away from the event venue, chairing an event is a lot of work. Doing it from another city is just a whole other level of execution and support. So what made you say yes?
Well, I love doing events. I mean, it's absolutely one of my favorite things to do. So, and I've had quite a bit of experience in El Paso, but I have never done a big event in Austin. And I have family here, so it's a great combination of my time to be here for my family. And I have friends that are here that are advising me on certain things. And it's Autumn Rich is amazing. She knows everybody and everything to do, and she's incredible. So I'm trusting in the process. And I believe our team is beyond excellent,
Stellar.
beyond excellent. And we couldn't be in better hands. So and we've all learned that we can handle a lot through Zoom. So we have a lot of meetings on Zoom.
Zoom is handy, and especially if you're regional, like you all are, you kind of have to do that because there's only so much, as an organization hire, there's only so many times you can ask, people to come in, for planning meetings and all that, and things come up and crises happen. And it's great that we have technology now that instead of just picking up the phone, you can all gather together on a Zoom and say, okay, here's the challenge. Let's make it an opportunity.
Absolutely. And I cannot underscore enough how talented Tania is visually and creatively. And she mentioned hosting the Texas Women for the Arts in El Paso years ago. The attention to detail she has is like anybody else I've met. And I've worked in the White House before. And it's pretty incredible. And to have someone of that caliber work with us is just priceless. And we're so grateful that she did say yes.
Absolutely. Well,
I'm honored. I'm truly honored. And I'm so honored to work with Mickey Klein. The man is just a legend. He's so kind and generous, and he's just a lovely, lovely person who truly cares about children and the arts. And it's an honor to work with him.
Agreed. They're
well,
both magnificent.
now knowing all three of you, I mean, you really are like the terrific trio, the three of you together. I can absolutely see how all these meetings go. But also, all of you are excellent leaders. So you all have your vision, but you also all realize, based on everything that you've said today, it takes a village as well. So you balance all those things, really, really well. And I do want to turn to something with the event specifically. And it's really, we're kind of talking about it, Tania living in El Paso and Mickey, being from Austin. The event draws, and this is why I love it so much, or one of the reasons why many reasons why I love it so much, is it draws people from all corners of the state of Texas. You've got honorees, like you've said, Houston, Lubbock, Fort Worth, all over the state. So, what is the secret to creating a space where every corner of the state feels welcome? Because Texas is from one end to the other, and I've driven on it, driving in from Louisiana on I-10. It's 884 miles from El Paso to Beaumont or east of Beaumont. There, how do you make all those different groups of people feel welcome in a space? Because you do it flawlessly every single time I've gone to it.
I think in my experience, I think it's the stories that are told. I think our last event that Chris Andrews put together did an amazing job telling the stories of the honorees and their lives in the different regions. Their place in those regions bring people from their community to come celebrate. And I think just knowing that excellence has come from all reaches of Texas, and we can all come together and see them celebrated and loved for what they've given to our state, that goes not just within our state, but globally. And they share that story, and every single person is representing, I mean, Sandy Duncan from New London. I mean, look at this. I mean, Galveston, Lubbock. I mean, they're all coming together with stories from their childhood and how it all started. And these are the stories that we want to highlight, to show how their region had an impact on the stories that they're telling, whether it's songwriting, theater, film, whatever it is. That's, I think, super important. It all comes together because they're from Texas.
That's fantastic, and that's amazing. And so it's almost like a big lasso of love, is like what you described there.
Absolutely.
There's a heart in Texas that goes around, and it's just a big old lasso around both of them. And in talking about the honorees, and this is something I have to give you props, because over the years you've honored well over 250 individuals, with art awards. Is What advice would you give? And Heidi, I'd love for you to start with this one. What advice would you give to someone looking to engage a celebrity to be involved with their nonprofit event? Because you're asking these people to all come in person, all except one, and that person, thankfully, it was done before she passed away, but every single one of them goes to the event. So it's not just a yes, I get the award. It's yes, I get an award, comma, and I show up.
That's exactly right. And many times we've been asked to compromise and say, what if they only attend this one evening? And I said, well, actually, it's the next evening that we need. And I think because we've been true to our desire and our request for them to be present, just so everyone feels that they're on the same level. Does that make sense? This award is so important. It's so important for our state. As I mentioned, it is the highest honor to recognize creativity within our state, and there's nothing else like it. And if we in any way compromise, I think, the value and the prestige of the award, I think it changes a little bit. And it's challenging because there are people that we would love to have here and they want the award, they just can't be present. It really changes the feel. Similarly, we can't do this event virtually. During COVID, we rescheduled and then we canceled it, because it's just a different feeling, because there is so much energy and so much vibration and color and feeling from this event. You can't do this remotely. It's a challenge. And having those people present is very important. And we negotiate with them and we'll say, well, you could miss this portion, but really you have to be there for the evening. And people make it happen, and if their schedules allow. I will say, now that we are fully up and running within our creative sector and industries, filming and music and the Grammys and everything else, it's challenging, where these individuals are so deserving and they want the award. And we have to say, well, let's consider 2027. And that's the hardest thing for us, because we would want them here. And that happens every single biennium. We do this event every 2 years. And that's something, in talking with our honorees, is to remind them that. And sometimes they'll try to make it work. And it's not for a lack of wanting to receive the honor, because so many people are proud of being Texans, even if they haven't lived here in decades. That's their home state. And they say that a lot. Almost every single honoree says that. I'm so honored to be recognized by my state. And as far as advice and reaching out to individuals and celebrities, it's a challenge. I'm not going to lie. What a challenge is getting to the right person. Fortunately, our board members, our network are very well connected, across the country and the world. So we do utilize that and their connections. But there's also sometimes with one particular individual who will remain nameless that you don't, you might get a best friend of the mom's sister or a mom's sister's best friend. I mean, it's fascinating what we do. You would laugh. But we do everything we can to reach the right person, because a lot of times the individual who is receiving the initial invitation may not recognize the importance because they've never been in Texas their entire life, right? And they're going through scheduling requests or those kind of things. So that's why it's really important to us to get to the right person who is close to the individual we want to honor and would know that this would be important to them. Otherwise, it's just another invitation. As you can imagine, some of these individuals receive thousands of invitations weekly, and so how do we set that apart? And part of it is also creating a really beautiful invitation, that is eye-opening and engaging and involved and creative. And so our network is extremely important, as it is for fundraising and everything else. But it is key to contact the right person who knows the potential honoree and knows how important this would be for them.
That was an amazing answer on so many fronts, especially the part about, several parts, but, obviously the part that you ended with about making sure that it's someone that can connect with that person well to get them to say yes. I also really love that you hold your ground, and when you hold your ground, you're holding your power. Because if you acquiesce too much, it can come across as desperation. And I love that. And thirdly, I love how you said, well, 2025 may not work, but 2027 may. So it's not that you're saying no, not ever. You're saying this year may not work out, but let's look at next time. And
we've already extended 2 invitations for 2027. And one said yes, potentially. Kate's trying to confirm that, but yes. So it's important to think forward, right? And
I think, one of the things, with the names that we just revealed, if you don't know one of these names, I invite you to explore that name and learn about that person's greatness and what that person or that
absolutely
foundation has done. Of course, they're nominated because of that, and it comes from our selection committee that knows their body of work. And so it's an educational opportunity for all of us.
Absolutely. And I do think it's our responsibility to educate Texas about the incredible people that are doing things around the world. Snow Hedda, Elaine Molinar, and Craig Dykers are from Texas, and they are the founders of Snow Hedda, this incredible architectural firm that has done things in Egypt and around the world and helped with the 9/11 Remembrance Monument. They have done things, and they're from Texas, and we were proud to educate and make people aware. And the other person I want to mention is Septime Weber.
Yes.
Who is the head of the Hong Kong Ballet, not a household name. One of the things I heard the most was how everyone was just in awe of the creativity and the breadth of work of this choreographer. He blows your mind. I can't even think of another word. And it's so beautiful that he traveled all the way from Hong Kong to receive this award. And, we had known he was incredibly talented, but really blew us all away. And I think he's now a household name for those that were in attendance, and they talk about him frequently. I hear this all the time. And that doesn't that make you more proud
I'm
than
so
anything
proud.
else?
I'm
right?
so proud. I'm just so proud of how they told the story through the videos that we have at the event, because it makes you understand the breadth of their greatness, and how far reaching they are.
It gives me chills.
Now, speaking of greatness, so you do several great, bespoke, wonderful events on 2 days. So yes, the Medal of Arts is kind of the culmination, and it's the main thing at the end. But you also do several other, smaller events, throughout the 2 days. So share a little bit about how you're able to create special moments consistently over several events over, a couple-day period.
Go ahead.
You want me to?
Yeah.
So you're correct. We have 3 events over 2 days. And we start off with the Arts Alive VIP reception, which is the night before. And this is kind of just setting the scene and the feeling for the 2 days. And we invite our VIP sponsors and the honorees to attend. I will say 2 years ago, I think most every single honoree came early and attended. As I mentioned, that's not the event we require. And it was quite lovely. And we had numerous people there. I think we're going to change it up a little bit and make it much more exclusive. But it's so wonderful to be able to interact with this talent and give that opportunity to our biggest supporters and be one-on-one. So it's a reception, where people can gather and learn a little bit more. We don't over program it because that's what we want it to be, more enjoyable, and just set the tone for what the next 2 days are. And we have an early morning the next morning. And which follows up the next morning with the Rise with the Arts brunch, which has historically been held at the Governor's Mansion, and we plan to do that again, which is quite lovely because you are there because of the history of the home, right? And this, while we are not in any way related to the state government, this is important that we are able to have this celebration here. And we're thrilled that we get to do that. And that's actually where we do present the medals to the honorees. And that event is even smaller than the night before. And we have a performance, and we have some speakers, our chairs, and our chair of the board. And then we culminate that evening with the red carpet reception and the award show and gala dinner. So we have a reception beforehand, and then we have the award show. And then we go outside for dinner, and we'll be at the Long Center again. And as far as your question about keeping the momentum going, I think it all kind of escalates into the evening. We get people excited the night before and welcome them to Austin. And then the next morning we have a lovely brunch, which is with a smaller group of individuals. And then that evening we have over 1,000 people that come and celebrate the power of the arts. And one of the things, talking to our producers, Chris Andrews, I always say, I was like, I want people to feel it. I want people to feel the color, the vibrancy, the emotion that the arts give. I think I may have mentioned this to you before. I always say, I'm like, can we just start it and then turn the lights off and then turn them back on and say, you know what, that's our world without the arts, because truly it is like turning the lights off. And I remember Chris saying, what if someone trips? What if something happens? But I think there's a way to do it. And the other thing that I love, and I think that we've done with our Young Masters program, is bringing the arts into the audience, having the performers in the aisles, having them sit next to you spontaneously. I think it makes such a difference. And it's this energy where, there's so many things going on during that season, right? And we are Tuesday and Wednesday evening, and it is a busy time. But when you feel the power of music and dance and song and hear these incredibly inspiring stories, you wake up and there's an energy that's there. And I think that's our goal. And forgive me for speaking for you, Tania, but I think that's our goal. We want everyone to leave with that feeling when they leave the Texas Medal of the Arts Awards.
I think we felt that last night. I mean, it was so beautiful at Artland Studios. Lisa and Freddie Fletcher just invited us into their home in this place that they've created. And it was just so amazing. Peter Moore graciously performed. Ray Benson joined in, really impromptu,
it was fantastic.
Unexpected, but the vibe was so beautiful. And I think, our donors were there, we had press, we had board members and other guests, and everybody walked away with the most beautiful feeling, because they created just this amazing sense of the power of the arts.
Magical is what I heard a lot.
Together. It was magical and historical, I think.
For sure.
What happened.
Absolutely. And it comes on the heels, right before Arlen's 40th anniversary. And hearing both Lisa and Freddie Fletcher talk about the importance of music and really feeling our connection and how they can complement our work and vice versa was beautiful too, because that's the mission of the Trust. We want to collaborate and be partners with other institutions that are celebrating the arts. And when we can get there, because we do so much, and the elevator speech is much longer than it should be for sure. When they now know intimately what we do and how they can connect and how we can do things together, it's so important. And I don't know if you know this, Freddie's uncle, Willie Nelson, was in the inaugural class of the Texas Medal of Arts Awards with Van Cliburn.
That's right.
2001. So Willie Nelson is Freddie Fletcher's uncle and helped to start Arlen Studios. There's so much history in that beautiful place, which hasn't changed probably in 40 years, but that's what makes it so special. And being able, as Tania said earlier, to educate and introduce our audience to culture that exists within our state is so powerful and so meaningful. And I think Tania and Mickey and the team accomplished that last night. And also this is before the event. So it's almost the kickoff of everything else that's going to happen. This is just the beginning. And I will say this is probably our most successful honoree announcement that we've ever had.
That's amazing. And what I will say is the last program you did in 2023, I thought was the best program you all had ever done. So I'm glad to see that momentum continue because it's not easy to corral 10, 12 celebrities and have everything run on time. And you somehow did that last year, or in 2023. And I was like, it was absolutely incredible. So I'm glad that momentum's continuing. And I know it will be even better for 2025. And I know we're coming up on time, but I always love to end segments with this question. And we'll have Heidi go first, and then we'll end with Tania. And that is, what is one thing all successful galas and signature fundraising events have in common?
Good teamwork. I think that is priceless. I think coming in to a big event like this that has multiple venues, multiple individuals, it's a challenge and it can get extremely stressful and there's a lot of work and people are tired. And I think the team is everything, and establishing that rapport early on, I think, is priceless, and setting boundaries and making sure people feel comfortable voicing their opinion is extremely important, because so many things will come up. And if we wait to voice our opinion the day of and not weeks or months or a year before, it can really challenge the success of any kind of event. So I think having a team that's all on board and that has mutual respect for one another and feels comfortable voicing their opinion. You don't ever want to work with somebody who is either going to ignore or not respect or not listen to your opinion. Doesn't mean they are going to take it. Just means that their communication is there. And I think that's extremely important because we have so many people, incredible people that we work with that make this truly a huge success. There's not one person that doesn't contribute to the success of the events. So I think having the right team in place is really priceless, and making sure that everyone feels comfortable, that Tania can tell us exactly how she feels, positive or negative. She needs to be comfortable telling us that, and we need to be comfortable listening to that and figure out what the solution is. So I think that's very valuable. So I guess teamwork and communication, which I think go hand in hand.
Absolutely. Teamwork makes the dream work. And
right.
you if you don't know, you can't implement. If you all don't know, you can't implement. So those are two brilliant answers. So thank you, Heidi. And then Tania, what about you?
Well, I would say that in my experience, I think we all need to know what the run of show is. I think, everybody needs to know what to expect. And we all need to be thinking about what we should be thinking about that's going to happen next, and always be ready for plan B. Mm-hmm. So when you're opening a brand new museum and your dim sum station is the steam's throwing off your fire alarm, which happened to me, right? The firemen come. You just have to be ready with cocktails and keep everybody happy.
That's exactly right.
But most importantly, we have to know what our donors expect. We are really, really focused on our donors and what the value added is to that. And so I believe that most importantly, yes, it's communication, it's the teamwork, it's about having the right people that are going to be managing those things that maybe don't go exactly right. We just have to have everybody ready, and we all need to know exactly what's happening at every minute. Last night, somebody said, when are we going in there? when are you going to start? I'm like, well, 5:07.
It says right here, it says 5:07.
5:07.
Fantastic. That's amazing. Well, it's like I said earlier, if you want to go to a good run of show, and that was a really important answer, Tanya, you all really, I was just blown away last time. I know it will be just as amazing in 2025. And I cannot thank you both enough for taking the time today. This was so wonderful. So Heidi, Tanya, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We can't wait to see you.
Can't wait to be a part of it.
And
And
this is fun and fundraising. I love it.
it is. It's always fun and it's always fundraising. And the Texas Medal of Arts Awards ceremony will be held on February 25th and February 26th, 2025, benefiting the Texas Cultural Trust at various locations throughout Austin, Texas. For more information, please visit txculturaltrust.org. And that will do it for this episode of Fun and Fundraising. I'm your host, Rob Giardinelli, reminding you to keep it fun, keep it interesting, and your guests will have a great time. Have a great day, everyone, and take care.